My name is Adela, and at 32 years old, I thought I had everything figured out. I was packing up my office belongings, my hands trembling as I placed my marketing awards into a cardboard box. 10 years of marriage to Marcus, a successful tech entrepreneur, and suddenly everything was falling apart. My phone buzzed with notification after notification, and when I finally looked, my hands started shaking for an entirely different reason. I thought losing my job that morning was the worst thing that could happen to me that day. Before I continue this story, I want to know where you're watching from today. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted most. What happens next completely changed how I view trust marriage and the power of standing up for yourself. That morning had started like any other morning in our suburban Seattle home. Marcus and I moved through our routine with the practiced ease of a decade together. He was already dressed in his usual startup uniform, dark jeans and a fitted black t-shirt that showed off his gym dedication, while I chose my navy blazer, the one he always said made me look like I could conquer the world. "You're going to crush that presentation today, babe," Marcus said, wrapping his arms around me from behind as I fixed my earrings in our bedroom mirror. His cologne, the same Tom Ford one he'd worn since our wedding day, filled my senses. Those Fortune 500 executives won't know what hit them. I smiled at his reflection, feeling that familiar warmth of his support. "It's just another quarterly review, nothing special. Nothing you do is just anything," he said, kissing my neck. "You're the best marketing director Preston Media Group has ever had. They're lucky to have you." Those words would echo in my mind with bitter irony just hours later. I drove to work, confident, prepared, ready. My presentation materials were perfect. My team of 15 was performing beyond expectations, and we'd just won the Pacific Northwest Marketing Excellence Award last month. The trophy sat on my desk, catching the morning light as I walked into my corner office that day. The email came at 1:45. "Please join us in conference room A at 2 p.m. Urgent." No subject line, no context, just the HR director's signature. I remember straightening my blazer, checking my lipstick, assuming maybe they wanted to discuss expanding my department. We'd been bringing in record numbers after all. 3 new Fortune 500 clients in the last quarter alone. Conference room A had 3 people waiting. The HR director, Jennifer, wouldn't meet my eyes. The CFO, Harold, was studying his phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. And my boss, regional director, Patricia Hawkins, looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Adela, please sit down," Jennifer said, her voice professionally gentle in that way that immediately tells you something terrible is coming. The words restructuring and outsourcing and strategic realignment floated around me like smoke. The entire marketing department, all 16 of us, would be eliminated, effective immediately. Our work would be handled by an agency in New York. "But we just won the Excellence Award," I heard myself saying, as if awards could stop corporate machinery. "Our revenue is up 47% this quarter." Patricia finally looked at me. "It's not about performance, Adela. It's about cost structure. The board made this decision last month. While I was killing myself preparing presentations, staying late, missing dinners with Marcus to perfect campaigns they already knew. They let me give my morning presentation to clients knowing I'd be gone by afternoon. Security appeared at 2:30 to escort me to my office. "Company policy," Jennifer explained apologetically. I had 20 minutes to pack 10 years of my professional life into a cardboard box. The Marketing Excellence Trophy went in first, followed by the photo of Marcus and me at our wedding, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember anymore. My team was in the conference room being told the same news. Through the glass, I saw Jeremy, my newest hire, just 23, and so eager-looking, shell-shocked. Maria, who'd been with me 8 years, was crying quietly. Tom was already on his phone, probably calling his pregnant wife. The security guard, a kind man named George, whom I'd chatted with every morning for years, carried my box as we walked to the parking garage. "I'm real sorry about this, Ms. Adela," he said quietly. "You were always one of the good ones." I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the concrete wall of level B where I'd parked every day for 6 years. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Marcus. I tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. He was probably in one of his investor meetings. The drive home at 3 in the afternoon felt surreal. The streets were wrong, too empty for my usual 6 p.m. commute. The radio was playing afternoon talk shows instead of evening news. Everything was backward, like the world had shifted while I wasn't paying attention. Marcus's Tesla was in our driveway. That was unusual. He never came home before 7, sometimes 8. if he was really pushing on his startup's new app development. I felt a wave of relief seeing his car. He must have somehow heard, must have come home to comfort me. I could hear him upstairs as I entered our house, his voice carrying down from his home office. He was laughing that bright, confident laugh he used when he was charming investors. Good, I thought. At least one of us was having a decent day. I climbed our stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last, preparing to tell my husband that I'd just lost the job that had been supporting us both. I pushed open the door to Marcus's office, and he spun around in his ergonomic chair phone pressed to his ear. His expression shifted from animated excitement to something I'd never seen before when he saw my face and the cardboard box in my arms. "Let me call you back," he told whoever was on the line, his voice suddenly flat. "I got laid off," I said, simply setting the box on his leather couch. "The entire department. They're outsourcing everything to New York." I expected him to stand up to cross the room and hold me. I expected the same man who'd stayed up all night with me when my mother was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, who'd told me then that we were a team, that we'd face everything together. Instead, he stayed seated, his jaw tightening. "How could you let this happen?" The words hung in the air between us like a physical barrier. I must have misheard. "Let this happen, Marcus. It was a board decision. They eliminated the entire department." "You should have seen it coming," he said, standing now but not moving toward me. "You're supposed to be some marketing genius, right? You couldn't read the signs, network with the right people, make yourself indispensable." Each question felt like a slap. "I just won an industry award last month. My team's performance was the best in company history." Apparently that wasn't enough, was it? His voice had taken on an edge I recognized from his calls with incompetent vendors. "Do you have any idea what this means for us? The mortgage on this house, my startup's runway, we needed your income, Adela. That was your responsibility in this partnership." Partnership. As if our marriage was a business arrangement. "I'll find another job," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "I have connections, a good reputation." Marcus laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "In this economy, how long will that take? 3 months? 6? We can't afford 6 months." He moved to his desk, shuffling papers with aggressive efficiency. "You know Brad's wife Brittany, she just got promoted to VP at Microsoft. 30 years old, that's someone who knows how to manage her career." Brad was his business partner. Brittany was a woman I'd met twice at startup events, all perfect teeth and coded conversations about synergy and scaling. The comparison stung exactly as he'd intended. "I need to get back to the office," Marcus said, grabbing his laptop bag. "Someone has to keep income flowing into this household. We'll talk about downsizing tonight. Maybe sell your Audi, definitely cut the housekeeper." He brushed past me without a kiss, without a touch, without a single word of comfort. I heard his Tesla backing out of the driveway, while I still stood frozen in his office, surrounded by his vision boards and startup motivational posters. "Failure is not an option," one read. "Winners win, losers make excuses," declared another. I made it to our bedroom before the tears came. Not pretty delicate tears, but body-shaking sobs that left me gasping. I sat on our king-sized bed, Egyptian cotton sheets we'd bought to celebrate my last promotion, and stared at our wedding photo on the nightstand. We looked so young, so confident. Marcus in his perfectly tailored tux, me in the vintage dress I'd found after months of searching. We were laughing at something my father had whispered right before the photo. "Take care of each other," he'd said. "That's all that matters." When had Marcus stopped taking care of me? When had I become a line item in his success spreadsheet? My phone buzzed with LinkedIn notifications. Former colleagues expressing shock, offering support, sharing job postings. Jennifer from HR had connected me with an outplacement service. My direct reports were checking in, making sure I was okay, even as they dealt with their own terminations. But nothing from my husband. I opened my laptop and started updating my resume, adding the Excellence Award, the revenue numbers, the client wins. On paper, I looked successful. In reality, I felt like a failure. Not because I'd lost my job, that wasn't my fault, but because the person I trusted most in the world had just shown me exactly what he thought I was worth. Sarah, my best friend since college, texted asking if I wanted to talk. I typed and deleted 5 different responses before settling on, "Not yet, tomorrow maybe." I started dinner at 6, needing the normalcy of routine. I chopped vegetables for Marcus's favourite stir-fry, the one I'd learnt to make from his mother when we were first dating. She'd been so warm then, teaching me the family recipes, telling me how happy she was that Marcus had found someone who really understood him. The garage door opened at 7:30. Late, but not unusual. I plated the food, opened a bottle of wine, tried to pretend this was just another Tuesday night. Marcus entered the kitchen, looking at his phone, thumbs moving rapidly across the screen. He sat at our dining table without acknowledging the meal, still typing. "I made your favorite," I said quietly. "Thanks," he muttered, not looking up. We ate in silence, broken only by the sound of his phone notifications. I wondered if this was what the next months would look like. This cold distance, this treatment, like I was a disappointing employee rather than his wife. I started applying to positions I offered. 3 recruiters have already reached out. "Good," he said, finally setting down his phone. "You need to fix this quickly. I can't carry us both." I'd been making 70% of our household income. After dinner, Marcus disappeared into his office for a conference call. I cleaned the kitchen, each task a small meditation in not falling apart. Wash the plate. Don't think about his coldness. Dry the glass. Don't remember when he used to help with dishes, talking about our days. Load the dishwasher. Don't cry. My phone rang at 8:45. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, but I wasn't ready to talk yet. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. "Sarah, I'm okay, I just need..." "Have you seen Marcus's Facebook?" Her voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "What? No, I haven't been on social media today." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Just go look. Now, I'm coming over." "Sarah, what?" "Look at it, Adela. I'm already in my car." I opened Facebook on my laptop, my hands suddenly shaking. Marcus rarely posted anything beyond startup promotional content and the occasional couple photo for anniversaries. But there it was at the top of my feed, posted just an hour ago. The post was 3 paragraphs long. As I read, each word felt like another twist of a knife I hadn't even known was there. Sometimes life tests you in unexpected ways. It began. "Today I learned that success isn't just about your own achievements, but about the people you choose to surround yourself with. When someone you've supported for years reveals they can't maintain their end of a partnership, it forces you to reevaluate everything." My eyes blurred, but I kept reading. I've always believed in lifting others up, in being the support system people need. But there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, am I enabling mediocrity? Am I holding myself back by trying to carry dead weight? Some people simply aren't cut out for the demands of corporate America, and that's okay. But it's not okay to drag others down with them. Dead weight. He'd called me dead weight. The final paragraph was the worst. Moving forward, I'm committed to surrounding myself with winners, with people who understand that failure isn't an option. It's time to reevaluate what kind of support system I need to achieve my goals. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the most necessary for growth. 247 likes, 89 comments. The post had been up for just an hour. My hands shook as I scrolled through the comments. His tech bros were rallying around him. "Stay strong, brother. You deserve someone on your level. Dead weight will sink any ship." Then I saw his mother's comment and my heart shattered completely. "I always knew she wasn't good enough for you, sweetheart. You deserve someone who matches your ambition." His sister had added, "Finally, you deserve so much better. I know some amazing women in tech who would love to meet you." There were comments from people I'd never met, strangers on the internet, offering to introduce him to more successful women and praising his courage for speaking out. Some of my former colleagues had seen it too. I could see they'd viewed it, but hadn't commented, probably as shocked as I was. My phone buzzed with screenshots from various people. My cousin in Texas, a college friend in Boston, my former assistant. The post was spreading through our networked social circles like wildfire. I heard Marcus coming down the stairs and quickly closed my laptop. He entered the living room looking pleased with himself, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Good conference call," I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "Very productive," he said, sitting on the opposite end of our sectional couch. "Lots of interest in our new features." I studied his face, looking for any sign of the man I'd married. "Anything else interesting happened tonight?" "Not really," he said, pulling out his phone again. "Why?" "I saw your Facebook post." He didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. "Oh, that. Just needed to vent a little. You understand. You called me dead weight, to everyone we know." He sighed like I was being dramatic. "I didn't use your name, Adela. It's not about you specifically. It's about my journey, my growth. Successful people share their struggles online. It's called building a personal brand. Your personal brand involves humiliating your wife." "You're being too sensitive," he said, standing up. "This is why you lost your job, probably. Too emotional, taking everything personally. In the real world, people appreciate honesty. Take it down, Marcus. He laughed that cold sound again. I'm not taking it down. My followers need to see the authentic me, the struggles of an entrepreneur. If you don't like it, maybe you should focus on getting a new job instead of monitoring social media. He walked toward the stairs, then paused. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. I need space to think about our future. Our future. As if there was still an hour after what he'd just done. Gara arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of wine and a fury that could have powered Seattle. But I wasn't ready for comfort yet. I was still processing the transformation of my husband from partner to public enemy. The notifications kept coming, each one another witness to my humiliation. I woke up the next morning to an empty house. Marcus had left for his gym session at 5 a.m., his usual routine. But his social media presence had been busy through the night. I discovered this when I checked my phone and found dozens of messages from friends, family, and professional contacts. The Instagram story at 5:30 a.m. showed him at the gym, a sweaty selfie with the caption, "Cutting toxic weight from my life, one rep at a time. Surround yourself with excellence or accept mediocrity. Your choice." LinkedIn was worse. He'd posted a lengthy article titled "The Hard Truth About Professional Partnerships" at midnight. It was a thinly veiled attack on partners who fail to maintain professional standards and become comfortable with underperformance. He'd tagged it with hashtags like leadership lessons, entrepreneur mindset, and success mindset. The post already had 500 views and dozens of comments from tech industry connections praising his vulnerability and honest leadership. By 7 a.m., he'd started a Twitter thread, 10 signs your partner is holding you back professionally. Each tweet was a dagger aimed directly at me, though he maintained the pretense of general advice. Sign 3, they make excuses instead of solutions. And sign 7, they expect you to compensate for their failures. Sign 10, they react emotionally to constructive feedback. The thread went viral in our tech community circles. People were quote tweeting with their own experiences building on his narrative. I watched my professional reputation being dismantled in real time, each retweet another brick in the wall Marcus was building around me. My phone rang. A recruiter I'd been talking to yesterday about a promising CMO position. "Adela, I'm sorry, but I need to be direct," she said without preamble. "I saw your husband's posts. I have to ask, is there something I should know about your termination from Preston?" "It was a restructuring," I said, my voice hollow. "The entire department was eliminated." "I believe you," she said carefully, "but my client saw the LinkedIn article. They're concerned about potential drama. Maybe we should revisit this opportunity in a few months when things have settled." She hung up with empty promises to keep in touch. 3 more recruiters called with similar messages over the next hour. One was brutally honest. No company wants to hire someone whose spouse is publicly airing grievances. It's a red flag, fair or not. My sister Emma called from Portland at 9. "I'm looking at flights. This is insane, Adela. What is wrong with him?" "I don't know." I admitted, staring at our wedding china in the kitchen cabinet. "It's like he was waiting for this, like he wanted me to fail." "Has he always been like this?" I thought about it, really thought about it. The subtle comments when I got promotions. "That's great, babe, though it's still middle management, right?" The way he'd mention his Stanford MBA whenever I talked about my state school degree. The jokes at dinner parties about being the real breadwinner, even though I'd been earning more. "Maybe," I whispered, "maybe I just didn't want to see it." Marcus came home at noon, unusual for him. He was on his phone laughing with someone about liberation and new chapters. When he saw me in the kitchen, he ended the call. "I have a podcast interview this afternoon," he announced. Tech Life wants to talk about maintaining professional standards in personal relationships. "You're going on a podcast to talk about our marriage." "I'm going to talk about my journey as an entrepreneur," he corrected. "The challenges of being a high performer in a mixed achievement household." Mixed achievement household. Like we were a sociological study. "Marcus, please. This is destroying my career. Recruiters are backing away. People think I was fired for cause." He shrugged, getting a protein shake from the fridge. "Maybe this is a good opportunity for you to reassess. Not everyone is meant for high-level corporate work. There's no shame in taking a step back, finding something more suited to your capabilities." "My capabilities? I won an Excellence Award last month. And yet here we are," he said simply. "Results speak for themselves." He left for his podcast interview, and I called Patricia, my divorce attorney friend from law school. I wasn't ready to file yet, but I needed to understand my options. Document everything there, she advised. Screenshots, recordings if legal, in your state witness statements. If he's damaging your professional reputation, that could be relevant in proceedings. My father called that afternoon, confused and hurt. Sweetheart, your aunt sent me some Facebook post. What's going on is Marcus saying you're incompetent. Explaining it to my 70-year-old father, hearing his voice crack when he asked if I was okay, that's when the rage finally broke through the shock. Marcus wasn't just humiliating me, he was hurting everyone who loved me. Emma arrived that evening, taking a red-eye flight and an Uber straight to our house. She found me surrounded by laptop screens documenting every post, every comment, every timestamp. We need a plan, she said, her marketing mind already working. He's controlling the narrative. We need to flip it. I'm not going to air our laundry online, I said. No, but we need to be strategic. He's playing a game. You need to understand the rules. Together we started investigating. Emma created a fake Instagram account to keep monitoring his stories since he'd blocked me that afternoon. I went through our financial documents trying to understand why he was so angry about money when we had significant savings. That's when I found it. Marcus's business credit card statements. The charges to client dinners that were clearly bars. The networking events that were weekend trips. The software subscriptions that were actually online gambling sites. His startup was bleeding money and he'd been using our joint savings to cover it. Look at this, Emma said, showing me her phone. He's on Reddit. She'd found his account username partially hidden but identifiable from posts in our local subreddit. The posts went back months. Comments about his underperforming wife and seeking advice about exit strategies from a marriage. One post from 3 months ago asked, "How do I protect my assets when my spouse is likely to lose their job?" 3 months ago, when I was killing myself preparing for the Excellence Award presentation. He knew, I whispered. He knew about the layoffs. Emma found more. A post in an entrepreneur subreddit about managing public perception during a strategic personal transition. Another asking about controlling narrative when ending a professional partnership. He'd been planning this. My job loss wasn't a crisis for him, it was an opportunity. The podcast went live that evening. 45 minutes of Marcus talking about the burden of excellence and the isolation of high achievement. The hosts, 2 young tech bros who probably lived on energy drinks and motivational quotes, ate it up. They praised his courage, his honesty, his commitment to growth. Sometimes love isn't enough, Marcus told them. When someone can't match your pace, love becomes an anchor instead of wings. The podcast already had 10,000 downloads by midnight. The comments section was full of men sharing their own stories of being held back by underachieving partners. It was becoming a movement with Marcus as their patron saint. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was James, Marcus's business partner. "I'm sorry about what he's doing. This isn't right. Can we talk?" I met James at a coffee shop in Belltown the next afternoon. Emma insisted on coming sitting at a nearby table like a protective guardian. James looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his eco-friendly coffee cup. "I need you to know I don't support what Marcus is doing," he started. "The post, the podcast, it's all wrong." "Then why don't you say something?" James winced. "Because he owns 60% of the company. I can't afford to cross him right now. We're in the middle of Series A funding. So you're here to apologize but not actually help. No, I'm here to tell you something you need to know." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The startup is failing, Adela. We've burned through our seed money. The product has major flaws we can't fix without significant investment. Marcus has been desperately trying to secure funding for months. But his posts make it sound like everything's thriving." "That's the point," James said. "He's creating a narrative for investors. The successful entrepreneur held back by personal drama, now breaking free to reach his full potential. 3 VCs have reached out since his LinkedIn article. They love a comeback story. He's destroying my reputation to get funding." James nodded miserably. "He showed me a pitch deck yesterday. There's a whole slide about removing obstacles to growth, with a graph showing projected success after eliminating negative influences. You're literally a line item in his investor presentation." I felt sick. "How much of our savings has he put into the company?" "I don't know exact numbers, but he mentioned leveraging personal assets. He's been taking a salary that doesn't match our revenue. I've been living on ramen while he maintains his lifestyle." "Why are you telling me this?" James pulled out his phone, showing me a message thread. "Because yesterday, he asked me to write a LinkedIn recommendation about his professional resilience during personal challenges. He wants me to validate his narrative. I can't do it. My wife would leave me if I participated in this. He sent me screenshots of Marcus's messages to potential investors, pictures that painted him as a martyr to marriage, a phoenix rising from the ashes of domestic disappointment. One message particularly stood out. Once I'm free from my current obligations, I can dedicate myself fully to the company. My soon-to-be ex won't be entitled to any of the future success. Soon-to-be ex. He was already planning the divorce while sleeping in our guest room and eating the meals I still cooked out of habit. Sarah had been doing her own investigation. She worked in tech, knew people who knew people. That evening, she came over with printouts that made my stomach turn. He's been on Tinder for 3 months, she said, showing me the screenshots her friend had taken. Marcus's profile read, entrepreneur ready for a partner who matches my ambition. No time for mediocrity. The photos were recent, including one from a conference I hadn't been able to attend because of work. He was already shopping for my replacement while I was winning awards and supporting our household. My LinkedIn notifications were a disaster. Former colleagues were viewing my profile in droves, probably trying to understand what was real. A few brave souls had reached out privately, offering support and job leads, but the public silence was deafening. No one wanted to be associated with the drama. Patricia, my divorce attorney, had been busy too. Washington is a community property state, she explained over the phone. But if he's been dissipating marital assets on a failing business without your knowledge, that's relevant. Document everything, especially the timeline of his social media campaign. Can I sue him for defamation? Possibly, but it's hard to prove damages in these cases. Focus on the divorce first. Get your fair share before his startup either succeeds or completely fails. That night, Marcus came home late smelling of whiskey and cologne I didn't recognize. He was actually humming as he grabbed water from the kitchen. Good day, I asked from the couch where I'd been reviewing our mortgage documents. Fantastic day, he said. 2 investor meetings, both very interested. They love that I'm streamlining my life, focusing on what matters. Streamlining? Is that what you're calling this? He turned to look at me, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt, regret. But it was gone, instantly replaced by that cold confidence. I'm calling it evolution, Adela. Some of us are meant to evolve. Others... He shrugged. Well, natural selection exists for a reason. He went upstairs to the guest room, leaving me alone with the realization that I'd been sharing my life with a stranger. The man I'd married, who'd cried at our wedding, who'd spent 3 days by my side when my mother was sick, who'd celebrated every promotion with champagne and flowers, that man had either died or never existed. Emma stayed another night sleeping in our guest bedroom after Marcus left for his office. We spent the evening creating a spreadsheet of evidence, building a timeline of his betrayal. She found more Reddit posts, including one where he bragged about testing me by creating situations where I'd fail. Remember when he insisted you skip the Goldman Sachs interview to attend his startup launch? Emma asked. I did remember. He'd said it was about support, about being there for each other. I'd chosen him over a potentially career-changing opportunity. Now I wondered if it had been a test or worse, sabotage. The next morning brought a new horror. Marcus had started a YouTube channel, Marcus Unstoppable, an entrepreneur's journey to freedom. The first video, Why I'm Choosing Success Over Comfort, already had 5,000 views. He sat in his Tesla camera, angled to show the logo, talking about hard choices and refusing to be an enabler. Comments poured in from men's rights activists, startup founders, and people who saw themselves in his story. King, never let anyone dim your light. This is why I stay single and focused. He'd monetized my humiliation. Literally. The videos had ads. My dad called again, his voice heavy with barely controlled anger. I saw the YouTube video. Emma sent it. Do you need me to come up there? No, Dad, I'm handling it. Does he not remember who walked him through his first business plan, who lent him money when his first startup failed? Does he not remember that your mother and I supported him when his own family wouldn't? I'd forgotten about that. Marcus's first startup before we were married had failed spectacularly. My parents had lent us $10,000 to keep our apartment. He'd paid it back, but only after my promotion 2 years later provided the funds. I'm documenting everything, Dad. I promise I'm not letting him get away with this. Your mother would be so proud of how you're handling this, he said softly. She always said you were the strongest one in the family. After we hung up, I sat with those words. My mother, who'd fought cancer for 3 years before losing, had called me strong. Not successful, not achieving, just strong. Maybe that was what I needed to remember. The afternoon brought another blow. Marcus had been invited to speak at Startup Con next month on a panel titled Personal Growth Through Professional Focus. He'd posted about it on every platform, thanking the organizers for recognizing that success requires difficult decisions. But then something interesting happened. A comment appeared on his LinkedIn post from someone I didn't recognize. Interesting perspective. Will your wife be sharing her side at the conference too? Would love to hear both perspectives on professional partnerships. The comment gained dozens of likes in an hour. Other people started asking similar questions. What does she say about this? Has she responded anywhere? Seems one-sided no. Marcus deleted the comments, but more kept appearing. The narrative was starting to crack. People were beginning to question why his wife was silent while he was so vocal. Emma saw the opportunity. You don't have to attack him, just exist professionally. Update your LinkedIn, share industry articles, be visible doing normal professional things. Let people see you're not the mess he's describing. So I did. I updated my LinkedIn with my recent award, shared an article about marketing trends, commented thoughtfully on industry discussions. I didn't mention, Marcus didn't reference the situation, just continued being professional. The contrast was apparently jarring. While Marcus ranted about failure and mediocrity, I was discussing strategy and innovation. Former colleagues started publicly engaging with my posts. A few brave souls even shared my award announcement retroactively. That evening, Marcus was furious. What are you doing on LinkedIn? Using it as intended, for professional networking. You're trying to make me look bad. You're doing that all by yourself. He stood there, fist clenched, face red. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. But then his phone rang another investor, and he answered it with his fake, cheerful voice walking away mid-confrontation. That was the beginning of the end, though neither of us knew it yet. The investment dinner was scheduled for the following Friday at Canlis, Seattle's most prestigious restaurant. Marcus had been preparing for weeks, treating it like his startup's IPO. 43 confirmed attendees, including venture capitalists, angel investors, and tech influencers he'd been courting. The rental for the private dining room alone cost more than most people's monthly salary. He'd made one crucial mistake. The invitation had gone out 3 weeks ago, before my termination, when I was still included as his successful marketing executive wife. He couldn't uninvite me now without raising questions, but he'd been dropping hints all week that I should consider if attending was really appropriate given everything. You'd be more comfortable at home, he said Thursday evening, adjusting his new suit in our bedroom mirror. These people are all talking about innovation and scale. You'd be out of your element now. I've literally presented to half the people on your guest list when they were clients at Preston, I reminded him. That was before, he said, as if my entire professional history had been erased with one layoff. I'm coming, Marcus. I RSVP'd. Patricia Yamamoto asked specifically if I'd be there. She wants to discuss her company's rebrand. He turned to face me, his expression cold. If you embarrass me tomorrow night, we're done. I mean it, Adela. This is my chance to save the company. Save the company. James had texted me that morning with more details. They had 2 weeks of runway left. Without new investment, Marcus's entire empire would collapse. This dinner was his Hail Mary. I spent Friday at a spa Emma had booked for me. Hair, nails, facial, the works. You're not going there as his failure wife, she said. You're going as the marketing director who built campaigns for Fortune 500 companies. Remember who you are. Sarah arrived at 4 with a dress she'd borrowed from her stylist friend. It was red, the exact shade Marcus had once said was too attention-seeking for corporate events. It fit perfectly professional, but stunning, powerful, but elegant. He's going to lose his mind, Emma said, admiring the final look. Good, Sarah replied. Let him. Patricia, my attorney, called with last-minute advice. Washington is a single-party consent state for recording. Your phone in your purse recording everything would be completely legal. Just saying. At 6:30, I walked downstairs where Marcus was waiting. His face went through several expressions, shock, anger, then forced calm. That's what you're wearing. Problem. It's inappropriate. This is a business dinner. This is a designer dress perfect for business events. You should know, you bought it for me last Christmas. He'd forgotten, of course. Too busy building narratives to remember reality. The drive to Canlis was silent, except for Marcus rehearsing his pitch under his breath. I noticed he kept checking his phone, texting someone with increasing urgency. Finally, I saw a response that made him relax. She won't be a problem. Trust me. I was a problem to be managed. We arrived to find the private dining room already buzzing with conversation. I recognized most faces, tech executives, investors, startup founders, and significantly 3 journalists who covered the Seattle tech scene. Marcus immediately went into performance mode, shaking hands and laughing too loudly. I hung back for exactly 30 seconds before Patricia Yamamoto spotted me. Adela, I heard about Preston, their loss. We need someone like you for our rebrand. Let's talk. Within minutes, I was surrounded. People who'd been watching the online drama from afar were suddenly face to face with the woman Marcus had been describing as dead weight. I wasn't crying in a corner. I wasn't desperately clinging to him. I was discussing market segmentation with the CEO of a biotech startup. Your campaign for Boeing was brilliant, someone said. That pivot to emotional storytelling in B2B marketing, I teach it in my University of Washington MBA class. Marcus kept glancing over his jaw, tightening every time someone laughed at something I said. His carefully crafted narrative of the failing wife was crumbling with every professional interaction I had. Dinner was announced. Marcus had arranged the seating, placing me at the far end of the table, practically in exile. But Patricia Yamamoto switched place cards, putting me in the center, where I ended up between two major investors. I've been following your husband's post. One of them, David Chen from Apex Ventures, said quietly. Interesting perspective on professional partnerships. Everyone has their own journey, I replied diplomatically. Indeed, though I find it curious when someone's journey requires burning bridges so publicly. The conversation flowed. I found myself discussing market trends, startup challenges, consumer psychology. The table kept directing questions to me, genuinely interested in my insights. Marcus tried several times to redirect attention to his pitch, but the organic conversation kept pulling away from him. Then came his moment. Marcus stood tapping his glass for attention. The room quieted. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began, his practiced smile gleaming. You're here because you believe in innovation, in disruption, in the power of focused leadership. He launched into his pitch slides appearing on the screen behind him. His app, supposedly revolutionary, looked exactly like 3 existing platforms, but with worse UI. But he sold it with evangelical fervor, talking about changing lives and disrupting industries. Success requires sacrifice, he said, building to his crescendo. It requires cutting out anything that holds you back, anyone who doesn't share your vision. I've recently made some difficult personal decisions to ensure nothing stands between me and building something remarkable. He clicked to a slide titled Eliminating Obstacles. There was a graph showing projected growth after removing negative influences. It was exactly as James had described. I was literally a data point in his presentation. Sometimes, Marcus continued, we have to choose between comfort and greatness. I've chosen greatness. He clicked to the next slide, which showed user testimonials. Except I recognized the names. They were fake. Marcus had created fictional users with stock photos. I knew because I'd helped him set up the testing environment months ago, and these were our test accounts. The room applauded politely when he finished. Then David Chen raised his hand. Question about your user acquisition. These testimonials, can you verify them? Marcus's smile flickered. Of course, our users are very satisfied. Interesting, David continued, because Jennifer Kim here, he gestured to a woman across the table, runs digital forensics for our firm. She noticed these profile photos are from a stock photo site. The testimonials appear to be generated by ChatGPT. The room went silent. Marcus's face flushed. There must be some confusion with our test data. No confusion, Jennifer Kim said, pulling up her tablet. I ran a reverse image search during your presentation. Would you like to see the results? This was spiraling, but Marcus tried to recover. Look, every startup has growing pains. Lying to investors isn't growing pains, someone said. It's fraud. I stood up. The room turned to me. I'd like to add some context, I said calmly. Since my husband has been so public about our situation, I think transparency is only fair. Marcus's eyes widened. Adela, don't. The marketing expertise Marcus mentioned in his pitch, I created those campaigns. The initial funding he referenced, that came from my salary over the past 2 years. The networking connections he leveraged. Those were my professional relationships from a decade in marketing. I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the presentation system. Emma had helped me prepare this, just in case. Since Marcus values radical transparency and authentic leadership, I thought you should see some additional data. The first screenshot appeared his Reddit post from months ago about hiding assets from a spouse. Then the Tinder profile active while we were married. The messages to investors calling them suckers with deep pockets. This one's particularly interesting, I said, showing a message where Marcus described his strategy to use personal drama to gain sympathy investments. He wrote this 3 weeks ago before I lost my job. He's been planning this narrative. The room was absolutely silent except for the sound of Marcus's heavy breathing. But the most relevant information for potential investors, I continued, is this. I showed the financial records James had shared with me. Marcus's startup had burned through $2 million in seed funding with zero path to profitability. The technology he was pitching tonight would require another $3 million minimum just to reach MVP. You're violating confidentiality, Marcus shouted. Actually, James said, standing up from his corner of the room, I provided those documents. As a 40% stakeholder, I have the right to share them with potential investors. I think they should know what they're buying into. Marcus looked between us, his face cycling through rage and disbelief. You planned this. You ambushed me. No, Marcus, I said quietly. You ambushed yourself. You spent so much time crafting a narrative about my failure that you forgot people could fact-check your success. David Chen stood up. I think we've seen enough. Thank you for the dinner, but Apex Ventures won't be investing. Others followed suit, gathering their things, murmuring apologies to me as they left. Within 10 minutes, the room was nearly empty, except for Marcus, James, myself, and one person, a tech journalist named Amy Wong, who'd been live streaming the entire dinner. This is going to be quite a story, Amy said, putting away her phone. Startup Founders Investment Dinner goes viral for all the wrong reasons. The internet is already calling it the Canillas collapse. Marcus stood there, his perfect suit suddenly looking like a costume on a broken mannequin. You destroyed me. You destroyed everything I built. No, I said, gathering my purse. You destroyed yourself. I just refused to be your collateral damage. I left him there in the empty private dining room with the bill for 43 dinners and a viral live stream that would end his tech career before morning. By the time I got home, the Canillas collapse was trending on Twitter. Amy Wong's live stream had been viewed 300,000 times and climbing. The tech community was dissecting every moment from Marcus's fake testimonials to what they were calling the wife's revenge served ice cold. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Journalists wanting statements, recruiters suddenly interested again, former colleagues expressing support and admiration. I turned it off, needing silence to process what had just happened. Emma and Sarah were waiting at the house with champagne and moving boxes. We figured you'd need both, Sarah said, popping the cork. Marcus won't come back here tonight. His ego won't let him. She was right. Marcus texted an hour later. Staying at Brad's. We'll get my things tomorrow. You're a vindictive witch. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The divorce papers were served the next morning. Marcus had somehow managed to file emergency paperwork overnight, claiming I'd sabotaged his business. Patricia laughed when she saw them. He's claiming damages after what he did to your reputation. This is going to be the easiest case I've ever handled. The financial forensics revealed more than even I'd expected. Marcus had taken out a business loan against our house without my knowledge, forging my signature. He'd maxed out credit cards I didn't know existed. His startup wasn't just failing, it was a sinkhole of debt. The good news, Patricia explained, is that the fraudulent loans mean you're not responsible for that debt. The bad news is there's not much left to divide. The house will have to be sold. I was oddly relieved. That house had become a museum of a marriage that maybe never really existed. Within a week, Marcus's complete collapse was documented across every tech blog. His investors sued him for fraud. James took over what was left of the company, pivoting to something completely different. The University of Washington rescinded Marcus's invitation to speak at their entrepreneurship symposium. His YouTube channel was demonetized after reports of harassment. Marcus tried to salvage his reputation with a podcast tour, claiming he was the victim of a coordinated attack by a bitter ex-wife. But the internet had the receipts. Every post, every lie, every cruel comment had been preserved and fact-checked. His attempts at reputation rehabilitation only made things worse. Meanwhile, my inbox was full of opportunities. The viral dinner had inadvertently become the best marketing campaign of my career. The woman who stayed calm while her husband imploded became my unwanted tagline, but it came with serious job offers. 3 companies wanted to hire me as their CMO. 2 consulting firms offered senior positions. But the most interesting message came from David Chen at Apex Ventures. We're not interested in your ex-husband's startup, he wrote, but we're very interested in you. We have a portfolio company that needs exactly your kind of strategic thinking and crisis management skills. I met with David a week later. The offer was extraordinary chief marketing officer of a sustainable technology company with twice my previous salary and significant equity. Why? I asked. You barely know my work. I know enough, David said. I saw how you handled an impossible situation with grace and strategy. You turned what could have been a messy personal attack into a professional demonstration of competence. That's the kind of leadership we need. I started the new position 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. The settlement was simple. The house sale covered the legitimate debts. I kept my retirement accounts, which Marcus hadn't touched, and he kept his worthless startup equity. He also signed an agreement to remove all social media posts about me and never discuss our marriage publicly again. The last time I saw Marcus was at the house closing. He looked deflated, wearing a shabby hoodie instead of his usual tech uniform. His Tesla had been repossessed. He arrived in an Uber. I hope you're happy, he said, signing the papers. I'm getting there, I replied honestly. You know, none of this would have happened if you hadn't lost your job. Even then, at the end, he couldn't take responsibility, but I didn't need him to. I'd learnt something more valuable than getting an apology or seeing him suffer. I'd learnt that my worth was never tied to his opinion of me. 6 months later, I was speaking at a marketing conference about crisis management and personal branding. The room was full people, eager to hear from the woman who'd survived the Canellis collapse. I'd resisted speaking publicly about it for months, but eventually realized my story might help others. The worst thing that can happen to you professionally, I told the audience, might be the best thing that happens to you personally. I lost a job I loved and a marriage I thought was solid, but I gained something invaluable, the knowledge that my worth isn't determined by my employment status or my spouse's approval. The presentation went viral, the good kind this time. Messages poured in from people in similar situations, thanking me for showing them it was possible to rebuild after public humiliation. A year after the divorce, I ran into James at a coffee shop. He'd successfully pivoted the company into a profitable consulting firm. I heard Marcus moved to Austin, he said carefully, trying to start over where people don't know about Canellis. Good for him, I said, meaning it. I didn't wish him ill anymore. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. He's telling people you were abusive, James added, that you manipulated him into posting those things to make him look bad. I laughed, genuinely amused. Of course he is. Doesn't that bother you? No, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. People who matter know the truth. Everyone else is welcome to their fiction. My company went public 18 months after I joined. My equity made me financially independent for the first time in my life. I bought a condo with a view of the Sound, something Marcus had always said was wasteful for just one person. But I wasn't alone. I'd built a community of genuine friends, colleagues who respected me, and a family who'd stood by me through the worst. Sarah and Emma were regular dinner guests. My father visited monthly, proud of what he called my phoenix rise. I dated eventually carefully and with clear boundaries. Trust would never come as easily, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I'd learnt to trust myself first, and that was the relationship that mattered most. The most surprising development came 2 years after the divorce. A publisher reached out wanting to turn my story into a book about professional resilience and personal boundaries in the social media age. I declined initially, not wanting to relive that period. But then I received a message that changed my mind. A young woman named Catherine had found my conference talk online. Her husband had started a similar campaign against her after she'd gotten a promotion he'd applied for and been rejected. My story had given her the courage to document everything and leave. You saved my career and possibly my life, she wrote. Your story needs to be told not for revenge or attention, but because there are so many of us suffering in silence thinking we're crazy or oversensitive. So I wrote the book. Dead Weight: How I Learnt to Fly After My Husband Tried to Sink Me. It became a bestseller, not because people love drama, though some did, but because professional jealousy in relationships was more common than anyone wanted to admit. The book tour was therapeutic. In every city, people shared their stories. Men whose wives had sabotaged their promotions. Women whose partners had undermined their confidence. People who'd lost themselves trying to make themselves smaller so their partner could feel bigger. Marcus sent one email after the book was published. I'll sue if you mentioned me. My lawyer replied with a simple reminder of the non-disclosure agreement he'd signed, which specifically allowed me to discuss events of public record, including everything he'd posted publicly. He never contacted me again. 3 years after that terrible day when I lost my job, I received an unexpected LinkedIn message from Jennifer, the HR director, who'd laid me off. I wanted you to know, she wrote, that the entire leadership team who decided on the layoffs was terminated 6 months later when the outsourcing failed. The company brought marketing back in-house, but the damage was done. You got out at the right time, though. I know it didn't feel that way. She was right. It hadn't felt that way. But losing that job had started a chain of events that led to me discovering who I really was, what I was really worth, and what I really wanted from life. The last update I heard about Marcus came from a mutual acquaintance at a tech conference. He was working as a contractor, building basic websites, still trying to launch his next big thing. He'd married someone he met in Austin, a young startup enthusiast who believed in his potential. "Give it 2 years," Sarah said when I told her. "She'll figure it out too." But I hoped she wouldn't have to. Maybe Marcus had learned. Maybe failure had taught him what success never could. Maybe his new wife would never have to experience what I did. Or maybe she would, and she'd find her own strength on the other side. Either way, it wasn't my story anymore. My story was the speaking engagements where I helped people recognize toxic professional dynamics. It was the mentorship program I started for women navigating career transitions. It was the success of the company I helped build with integrity instead of ego. Most importantly, my story was the peace I found in my waterfront condo, watching the sun set over Elliott Bay, knowing that I'd survived something that should have destroyed me and came out stronger. Marcus thought he was exposing my failure to the world. Instead, he exposed his character and freed me to become exactly who I was meant to be. He thought making me dead weight would help him soar. He never understood that I was never weight at all. I was wings he was too insecure to appreciate. The phrase, "the best revenge is living well," never resonated with me. I wasn't living well for revenge. I was living well because I finally understood my worth had nothing to do with him and everything to do with me. Sometimes I think about that morning packing my office box, thinking losing my job was the worst thing that could happen. If I could go back, I'd tell that version of me the truth. You're about to lose everything you thought mattered and discover everything that actually does. Hold on, it's going to be a terrible, beautiful ride. What would you do if someone you trusted turned your lowest moment into their publicity campaign? Have you ever had to rebuild your professional reputation after someone tried to tear it down? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear that there's strength on the other side of public humiliation. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, sometimes the worst things that happen to us clear the path for the best things waiting for us. Like and subscribe if you believe in the power of resilience, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about rebuilding your career after a public crisis. Until then, remember, you are not dead weight. You are preparing for takeoff.